All right, welcome to another edition of the J&J Sports Express for Week 15 of the NFL season 2023. I'm your host, Jeff Cadillac, and as usual, my co-host for the next 30 minutes is JB Ellis. JB, how you doing tonight?
Doing good, doing good. We got five good games to talk about. I like the selection this week.
Well, thank you very much. I selected it all by myself.
I know you did a good job. I didn't have to make any changes. I like it.
Always, always. So, we didn't come on last week. All those viewers, listen, we had technical difficulties. We couldn't get on, but hopefully through the end of the season and the Super Bowl, we'll be on every Wednesday night. So let's get to the first game. First game of this week is the Chargers at the Raiders on Thursday night. Raiders are the favorite by 3. How do you like this, JB?
Interesting game. Herbert's out for the rest of the year. The Chargers have looked horrible all year. The Raiders, they're playing more inspired since with the new head coach Pierce. I don't know. I mean, they're at home in Vegas. They're both 5-8. You got Easton Stick versus Aiden O'Connell. If anyone told you at the beginning of the year this was the quarterback matchup, I don't know what anybody would say. The Raiders lost an exciting 3-0 game to the Vikings last week, but I think they're going to score some points this week because everyone scores on the Chargers. And I think the Raiders are going to cruise to victory.
Well, I happen to agree with you on this one, and I'll tell you something. When I first started looking at this game earlier in the week, it wasn't announced that Justin Herbert was going to be out for the rest of the season, or for that matter, this game. And the Chargers were originally the favorite. Once it was announced that Justin Herbert was going to be out and then out for the rest of the season, the Raiders became the favorite. Now, to add more fuel to the fire, Keenan Allen is going to be out also for the Chargers on Thursday night. So that even makes this a winnable game for the Raiders. I mean, the Chargers have a defense that's terrible. Joey Bosa's out. You got Khalil Mack in there. Khalil Mack gets double teamed. Nobody's touching the quarterback. Both of these coaches, both of these teams also have coaches. Neither one of them are going to be the head coach next year. Brandon Staley's basically dead man walking. Antonio Pierce really hasn't shown enough for him to really get a long-term contract with the Raiders. And the Chargers, the defense is just plain terrible. Right? Like you said, Easton Stick is going to be in there, on a short week. It's going to be tough. I don't think he's pulling any Baker Mayfield anytime soon, like he did on that short week with the Rams against the Raiders last year on Thursday night. The Raiders on the other side, Aiden O'Connell. I happen to like this guy. I mean, I know that the Raiders are coming off the 3-0 loss against Minnesota. Defensive struggle there. And that's the defense that's going to stop the Chargers this week. Because, first of all, you got 2 of their main stars missing. Chargers are also coming off that big loss against Denver, and I love Denver in that game. I also liked Minnesota against the Raiders, and it would have been nice if they scored more than 3 points because that's what the spread is. But I got to go with you on this one for a lot of different reasons. I think the Raiders really run at the Chargers all night long. I see them winning by a touchdown, at least a touchdown in this game on Thursday night.
Yeah, I got to agree. So, question for you, the Antonio Pierce thing before we move on. So, his losses were to the Jets, to the Dolphins, Chiefs, and the Vikings. The Vikings would be the only bad loss I see, but the defense played phenomenal. So, I mean, you don't think he's done good enough, not so much to maybe keep the Raider job, but to get a job in the future as a head coach?
Maybe to get a job somewhere, but, he's got to show me more. The Raiders have a very bad history when it comes to coaches. Every time there's a coach that actually turns the team around in the right direction, they fire them. And they bring in somebody who actually takes the team and goes 2 steps back. John Gruden was not the coach. I definitely thought whoever thought he was a great coach, big mistake. He signed that big 10-year contract. I said to a couple of people, I said, if he does 4 years max in that contract, I'd be surprised. Sure enough, he didn't even make the 4th year. So, and then before Josh McDaniel, you had that guy, I can't remember his name. He actually turned the team around. They had a good season, and then they fire him. They bring in this, calamity of errors, Josh McDaniel. He's terrible. For whoever thought
it was bad.
Yeah, whoever thought that guy would be a good head coach should have their head examined, because look, offensive coordinator in New England with Tom Brady, he was the offensive consultant. We've discussed this many times on this show, and I've said it everywhere. There is no way you're going to tell me that Tom Brady wasn't calling his own plays, okay? Josh McDaniel was there to maybe say, when you call the play in the huddle, if this one doesn't work, try this one. Or if it doesn't work, here's an idea, this and that. He's a consultant. He wasn't – Tom Brady's calling his own plays. Obviously, maybe not the first year, the second year. But after a while, come on, Tom goes in there. He knows more than any coach ever. And Josh McDaniel showed that he cannot be a head coach. Maybe he's an offensive coordinator somewhere, but he needs a guy like Tom Brady because that's the only person he was successful with. So anyway, but I like the Raiders in this. I think Antonio Pierce is definitely showing some leadership qualities in Las Vegas. Does he get considered for another job? I'd like to hope so, but we'll see. But this Thursday night, I definitely like the Raiders winning by 7.
It's interesting. I do agree with you. I don't think they're going to keep him, but I think he deserves to be looked at. I think he's done a good enough job for that somewhere else in the future. I just don't see them sticking with him next year.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see.
I
don't think so either.
So we start the Saturday games this week. So rest up on Friday because you got football Thursday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday now till the end of the year, the last week where you lose the Monday game. So make sure you're rested on Friday because we're going to be busy.
Okay, the next game up is the Vikings at the Bengals. The Bengals are the home favorite, laying 3.5. How you like this game, JB?
This is an interesting game. The Vikings, their offense has disappeared. They're going with a different quarterback this week. They're going with Nick Mullins, which it's interesting that that's the route that they're going. I like the way Jake Browning's been playing. The first week when they lost to Pittsburgh, I just was watching the game. I like the guy. I think he could be a starting quarterback in the NFL. Do I think he's a star? No, but I think he's very competent. And I have a lot of faith in him with that Cincinnati team. I think that the Bengals are actually going to win this game. And I would say by a touchdown.
All right. Well, I happen to think that Cincinnati's going to win this game, but I don't think they're going to win by more than 3 points. That's why I like the Vikings here. Nick Mullins, he's good as a backup quarterback. There's a lot of good things about the Vikings, but Josh Dobbs, I think, was a little too nervous in the job. That's why he was replaced during the game against the Raiders last week, which the Vikings won 3-0. I mean, Nick Mullins, he came in, he was competent. Joshua Dobbs, he got a little crazy, started, throwing interceptions, running the ball, turning the ball over, hitting the open guy. Jake Browning surprised everybody on that Monday night game against Jacksonville. Jacksonville wasn't ready for somebody like that. I don't think they were ready for anybody like that because they showed that they just let this guy go up and down the field. But the Vikings have a better defense than Jake Browning has come across. Minnesota's got the 10th total defense in the NFL. They're fifth against the rush and 14th against the pass. So they might not score a lot, but they also don't give up a lot. And in a tight game like this, 1 point or 2 is very important. Jake Browning and Cincinnati, I love him. Chase Brown, he was very good. He showed a lot. This guy was drafted by the CFL. He's already in there. He's already looking, he gives Joe Mixon a little bit time off, and he compliments him. We'll see what's what, but I like a very close game in this game. Cincinnati.
You like the Bengals to win and not to cover, basically.
Right. I like the Vikings plus 3.5 because I feel it's going to be a very close game. Bengals are coming off that big win against Indy. Again, it's Indy. It's not a big deal. It is a win. It's a win. Cincinnati's looking to get into the playoffs. They're playing well, even with Jake Browning. Jake Browning, I'll tell you something. This guy, he's going to be a starter somewhere in the NFL. He's going to get a shot. He really worked his way up. He's really showing a lot of good things. He's got a lot of good weapons on Cincinnati. He shows he can spread the ball nicely around. He knows what he needs to do. He's going to have a job. Joe Burrow's going to be back, but Jake Brown is going to be starting somewhere. He's going to get a Geno Smith contract possibly to start somewhere. But in this game, I think Bengals win by like 2 or 3, but they don't cover the 3.5 point spread. I like the Vikings plus the points.
That's fair. I mean, I could see it that way too. I think after they shut out the Raiders, I think the defense is going to have a letdown. But uh, I could definitely understand where you're coming from. I don't think it's going to be more than a touchdown, but I do like the Bengals to cover. And if I was betting, I'd buy a point to get it to 2.5 because there's key numbers in the NFL when you bet. There's no reason to take the risk, win a little bit less, and buy the point. But I definitely hear where you're coming from.
Yeah. But all right. So the next game, we're going Sunday, Dallas plus 2.5 at Buffalo. I'll start it off this one. I like Dallas in this game. I think Buffalo got off easy with that call last week. If anybody watches the NFL Live on ESPN, Don Orlovsky, who's one of the analysts for that show, he pointed out that there were 5 offensive offsides by Kansas City in that game that were not called. And all of a sudden, they call the one play at the end with a minute left in the game. Now, my complaint here is that the officials have to be consistent. If you see it, you got to call it, and you got to call it throughout the game. You can't just make it a call at the end of the game. To me, that's it's not right. I mean, it was called the minute it happened, but they saw it other times during the game, and they should have called it then. This was an unbelievable play. It negated an unbelievable play. The Bills got off lucky. They're very overrated. They have second half collapses. They've done that throughout the whole season. The other side, Cowboys, they destroyed Philly on Sunday night football. They came, they did the job. They came, they went, they conquered. They're going to do it again against Buffalo. Buffalo's the same kind of team, almost like Philly. I think Philly's just a little better. I see the Cowboys really rolling over the Bills. You got Dallas with the 4th rated total offense in the NFL. Buffalo's got the 14th total defense. Those numbers don't mean anything because Dak is playing at a level right now that's higher than it's ever been. So I like the Cowboys big over the Bills.
It's an interesting game. The only thing that scares me about Dallas, they finally got themselves in the driver's seat. They haven't been in this position in a while. They put themselves behind the 8 ball with the loss to Arizona and then the loss to San Francisco. But they finally started to take care of business. Huge win against the Eagles. You called it, if I'm correct, last week. When we were talking that the Dallas was going to beat the Eagles.
No, I like the Eagles actually on.
Oh, did you?
Sunday night? Yes.
Why did I think you said that the Dallas was going to win? But okay, a lot of people were calling Dallas victory, which I couldn't see that happening. Dallas, they went out there and they took care of business. They looked great, and I think that the only thing that scares me is a letdown. I would definitely take the points with the Cowboys here. I think that they're going to win. I think it's going to be a close game, though. I don't think it's going to be a blowout. I think it's, going to be close down to the end, but Dallas's defense is too good. And that's where they're going to end up winning this game.
Well,
I mean, Dak is going to play well.
Dallas is still playing for the number 1 seed, and there's a chance that they become the number 1 seed. So, they have to hope that Philly loses, San Francisco loses, that things fall into their place, but they have to keep winning. Otherwise, it's a moot point.
Yeah, no, I agree with you on that as well. I mean, they finally got themselves to where they can win the division, first of all, and they are in a spot to get the number 1 seed. I mean, the only way they can get to the Super Bowl is to have everything go through Dallas. They're not going to San Francisco to win. Not going to happen. So they have to win out and get that number 1 seed to have a shot. But like I said, I think they're going to win it a close game here. I think there'll be a little bit of a letdown. But, I mean, I don't think the Bills strategically on paper match up in any spot. Josh Allen at this point of the year, Dak is better. Running back, who's the Bills running back? Cook or whoever? They don't use him, whoever it is. I mean, Cook fumbled, they took him out.
They don't use him enough.
Yeah. Diggs or CD Lamb. CD Lamb right now is better. Defense. Dallas defense is better. So I mean, overall, Dallas is the better team, and they've played better all year. So I gotta say Dallas in a close game. I would take the points easily.
But do you think Dallas is going to win outright?
I think they will in a close game.
I think they'll win outright. I think they'll win by at least 7. I'm surprised that they're the
I don't know.
dog in this one
No,
because Buffalo hasn't shown me anything. They got lucky beating Kansas City last week. They would have lost. They would have obviously lost if there was no penalty on that game, because you're talking about the perfect pass from Travis Kelce to Kadarius Toney. That was a perfect pass, and he walked in the end zone, and it was with less than a minute in the game, and you could tell it already. They were defeated. Kansas City went back, and they couldn't do anything after that because they were shell-shocked by that call, which I understand. It took them out of their frame of mind. They're out of their thinking. That's the only way the Bills won that game. The Bills were up in that game, and they self-destructed in the second half, as usual. The Bills have lost some big games this year, some easy games. They lost to Denver. They were a big dog at home. They barely beat the Giants with a second-string quarterback. I mean, so they beat Miami. So what? Tennessee beat Miami on Monday night. Big deal. It happens. But you still got to win the other games. That's why Buffalo is 7-6. They're going to be on the outside looking in. They lose a couple of more games, they're out of it. They're not going to get into the playoffs. And they're going to start looking at them.
I completely agree with you. I mean, their window is closing awfully quick. They're going to have to revamp the team going forward, and they're in a bad spot.
That defensive line doesn't put pressure on anybody. They only put pressure, drips and drabs throughout the game. I mean, everybody talks Von Miller. You know how many sacks Von Miller has this year? 1, maybe 1. So, I mean, he's been basically getting paid to do a lot of nothing because he spot plays. He doesn't even play a lot of defensive plays. All of a sudden, he's in there on a third down or this and that, and he's not doing anything. He's not putting any pressure because nobody else is doing it. So it's easy for some team to put 2 guys on him. There's a lot of things that the Bills are going to have to look at after this season, especially if they don't make the playoffs, because they need players. You can't have a quarterback gets older. He's not going to be taken off as much. Josh Allen is not going to be running for, first downs for the rest of his career because all it takes is one bad tackle and he's out and the season is over.
That's a huge problem that the Bills have had for a long time. And, your franchise quarterback, and we're not talking about, a guy like, I don't know, any second string quarterback. Josh Allen has talent to be a top 5 quarterback in the league. You can't have him run as much as he does. That one injury, that's it. Your team is done. So I don't understand how, this isn't the first year we've spoken about this. We're on like year 3 of him running the ball, leading the team in rushing. How don't you go out there and get a quality running back?
That's right. I'm surprised they didn't pick up like Dalvin Cook or maybe, somebody who could take the load off. So anyway, going to the next game, you got the Sunday night football game. Is Baltimore -3.5 at the Jags. You want me to start?
You could start this one.
All right, I'll do this one. I happen to like Baltimore big time in this game. I'll tell you something. The Jags, first of all, they're coming off 2 straight losses. They lost against Cincinnati on Monday night, and the coach made some big mistakes against Cleveland last week. Everybody's talking about the return of Flacco. Well, the Jags lit up the Cleveland defense big time. But at the end of the game, Doug Peterson made one of the biggest mistakes, I thought, coaching mistakes. The Jags had scored a touchdown to make the score, Cleveland 31. They scored a touchdown. And instead of kicking just the extra point and needing 3 points to tie, maybe on an onside kick, he goes for a 2-pointer. And, of course, they miss. Now they got to get the onside and then go for a touchdown, which put even more pressure on the team. I thought it was a big mistake. Go for the tie and see what happens in overtime because you're still going to get the ball. But he decided to go for the win, and I thought it was a bad mistake. But Jacksonville was playing catch-up in that game big time, and they haven't looked the same. And the Jags, first of all, everybody says they have a great defense. Well, guess what? Now they're playing a running defense. Now they're playing a run game with Lamar Jackson, who takes off, who could run for 100 yards easily in a game. I mean, he sees the whole field, and if something doesn't open up, he takes off. So it's a different you. The only way to beat him is have a spotter, which a lot of teams can't afford to do because now you got wide receivers on Baltimore as well. You got Likely, you got Odell Beckham, you got, I forget the third guy, but this is what you have, and you have people who could run the ball on Baltimore as well. You also got a very tough defense in the Ravens. Yes, they went back and forth with the Rams last week, and I liked the Ravens laying the 7. They ended up only winning by 6 in overtime. The Ravens had chances. You're going to have games like that. The Rams, I felt they hadn't beaten anybody all season. I felt that Baltimore was definitely going to win by 7. This game, also, I got to mention before I let you go on this one, is that this is a revenge game for Baltimore as well, because what happened last season is in week 12 at the Jaguars, these two teams played. Baltimore was up 27-20 in week 12, late in the game, but Baltimore let Jacksonville go all the way down the field, score a touchdown, and get the 2-point conversion to win 28-7. So if I'm John Harbaugh, I'm telling the rest of the team, you remember this game? You remember this game? Well, guess what? There's a little revenge factor, psychological factor coming in from Jeff Cadillac right here. And that's why I like the Ravens -3.5 against the Jags on Sunday night.
Yeah, I mean that's a great point with the revenge factor. Um, Baltimore is also a team on a mission this year. There's something special about them. I mean, you said the NFL said Detroit there. It was like Detroit never got off the plane. They said Seattle to Baltimore. It's like they never got off the plane. They've played tough all year. They're also playing for the number 1 seed. They caught a break with Kansas City losing, last week. They want to finish it up strong. The Jaguars, before the 2 losses, for a little bit, were the number 1 seed, and they're kind of on a downturn. So it's an important game for them as well. Lawrence with the high ankle sprain isn't 100% yet, no matter what anybody says. I know he's trying to play, but it's not easy to do. And Baltimore's got a really good defense. They got Lamar, who, can run, he can throw. He's definitely a dual threat. They have a couple of nice running backs. They got Isaiah Likely as the tight end, filling in for Mark Andrews, like they didn't miss a beat. Zay Flowers and Odell at wide receiver. They got a nice team put together, and they're playing hungry. I think that they're going to win this game. I'm looking for a touchdown or more. They want to win, and like you said, there's that revenge factor from last time.
And
They want that number 1 seed.
Christian Kirk is a big target for Trevor Lawrence. He's out for the rest of the season.
Yes, that's another big injury.
Right. So Baltimore doesn't have to worry about him out there. Now they can just focus on the other guys. Big factors coming in. Injury. When a star player goes out, it's not always next man up. In football, it is next man up. But the problem is that when you got a star, I mean, Tom Brady goes down, who's the backup? It's not like, all of a sudden things change. The whole game plan changes. And star players go down. Keenan Allen going down for the Chargers. It's big. That's a big target. The guy doesn't drop anything. And Andre Hopkins goes down. He don't drop anything. These guys, Mike Evans goes down. That's a big target. Christian Kirk was a big target for Trevor Lawrence, and him going down is big. But I do see the Ravens winning by at least 7 in this game. I agree with you.
Yeah, I love that. That to me is one of my picks of the week, to be honest with you.
I could see that. Monday Night Football. It seems like Philly's always on some kind of spotlight. But you got Monday Night Football, Philadelphia Eagles -3.5 at Seattle. Who you liking here to have, JB?
The Seahawks are just not right. There's something missing. I don't know how to explain it because it's kind of like an intangible thing. They're still have the same team. It's just like they were playing well, and then it just stopped. Where the Eagles right now are fighting for their lives to win the division, to get back in the race for the number one seed, coming off a tough loss to Dallas. They're going to come out heated. Seattle's a tough place to play, but the Eagles are going to be going out there firing because they can't afford to lose another game. And meanwhile, the Seahawks are just floundering. They got stomped by San Francisco
twice.
Yeah, and I mean last week, and they're not playing smart either. I mean Metcalf with that penalty going after the defensive guy. Yeah, I saw the replay. It was a illegal hit and it was horrible, but you gotta keep your cool. You got to put your team in a chance to win games. You can't take dumb penalties. I get you have emotions and things happen.
Seattle's on a 4-game losing streak, JB. They've lost twice to San Francisco, once to Seattle, and once to Dallas. A lot of tough games there. They started off 6-3, now they're 6-7, and they're fading fast.
Yeah, but that besides fading, there's fading, but they don't look right. I mean, you can lose tough games. There's nothing wrong with that. The Raiders lost 3 in a row, but they don't look like they're bad. You can see that there's a different talent level. The Seahawks just don't look right.
I think
it's hard to.
Who do you like in this game?
Oh, definitely the Eagles. The Eagles are going to bounce back. This is even going to be a fun game to watch.
I have to agree with you here. I like the Eagles. They're on a double bounce back. They got blown out by Dallas. They got blown out by San Francisco. They got to change their game plan. They're a little bit too predictable. And they also showed that they're not, Jalen Hurts is taking more chances in his passes. He's got to go with the short thing. If it means dropping it off and taking the short pass, that's what you got to do. You can't always go for the long bomb. And that's what he's been looking for. You got to go for the short thing. You got to go back to the basics. That's how you win these games. The Eagles, they have to spread the offense open a little bit better. It's becoming a little too predictable. I'm watching it and I'm already thinking to myself, who's getting the ball? And sure enough, that's who they're throwing it to. The Seahawks, they're not right. They're a few players away. They started off nice. Geno Smith is reverting back to his bad habits. And, I just DK Metcalf and, the whole gang, they're frustrated. I understand. They started off nice, 6-3, now to 6-7. Philly's on a bounce back. They're look, things happen, getting blown out. It happens to the best teams. I remember one year Kansas City blew out New England on a Monday night. It was like 40-14 or something like that. And they actually asked Bill Belichick if he was actually thinking of replacing Tom Brady as the quarterback. And Belichick was laughing, and that's how he answered the question. It's the same thing here. I mean, I'm not saying Eagles are going to win the Super Bowl. I mean, New England did go on to win the Super Bowl that season. But the Eagles are a good team. They just, good teams have to make adjustments. They make the adjustments. Bad teams don't make any adjustments. That's why they're bad. They find ways to lose. The Eagles are going to win this game, and they're going to win it big. I see them winning by at least 14 points over Seattle. Seattle's going to be frustrated again, and things are not going to go their way. I see a couple of turnovers for Seattle. I see the Eagles winning this by 14. Seattle's fading. They're a few guys away. The defense is getting old, and I like the Eagles by 14.
It's frustrating if you're a Seahawk fan or you enjoy watching the team because they started out with such promise to fade the way they faded. It's just unwatchable. It's like they're a different team. And sometimes that happens. Sometimes the locker room just changes. You're playing tough teams, people quit. It's just, I don't know what it is. There's just something, there's an intangible there that I can't tell what it is because I'm not around the team every day. But, not that they should have beat San Francisco, but they were coming back. They had a great drive in the third quarter. And as soon as they scored, it was like, that was it. They were done,
San Francisco could have scored more points. They had an interception return, and Ayuk was running with the ball and he got stripped. Otherwise, he would have probably run right into the end zone. So, I can understand the
Yeah.
frustrations, and Seattle's really not looking all that good at this point.
Well, where can people find you?
Well, you can find me on my website at jeffcadillac.com. Hey, listen, I'm plus 21 this season. If you're not reading my website, you're definitely losing out. You're missing something. Because every week I'm having good weeks. I can't complain. Look, picking the games. Since week 4, I mean, I had one bad week this whole season. And if it wasn't for that week, I'd be plus 30 almost. So you can find me on my website at jeffcadillac.com. You can find me here on J&J Sports Express every Wednesday night with JB Ellis. And you can also find me on Twitter at jeffcadillac1.
Awesome. Well, if you're not following jeffcadillac.com, you're just giving your money away. If you want to give your money away, go to at Sideline Sport 1. We'll tell you where to send the check. But until then, I'm JB _ the program on X. Sideline Sports every Tuesday, 8:30 p.m. Eastern. J&J Sports Express every Wednesday at 7. Make sure you're watching. Until next week. Already 15 weeks done after this. The year is flying. We'll see you guys next week.